Hi, everybody. My name's Mitcham Turner, and welcome back to the Big Rig Compliance YouTube channel. I am an NHVR auditor, WA Heavy Vehicle Accreditation Auditor, AMCAS Auditor, and I do a lot of heavy vehicle safety consulting, safety management systems, all of those sorts of things. Today, I'm working through some work diary reviewing, and I wanted to share with everybody a real world example of something that raises alarm bells of falsification for auditors. This is something that we hope that you can pick up internally in your own companies, and also for drivers, we hope that this is something you can learn from and try to avoid. Now, I haven't verified this against GPS as a falsification record. This is just an example. It's just a concern that I'm raising with the company to investigate further. I've taken all identifying features out of it we can, all the registrations, all the names, all the signatures, all of the work diary page numbers. Let's jump into it. So first thing I'm going to do is show you two work diaries that are consecutive days. So this is day number 1 and this is day number 2. You'll note that I've crossed out an area in day number 1 that isn't relevant, and I'm going to suck it down to part of day number 1 and day number 2 and put it in one image. Now, this is this image showing part of day number 1 and day number 2 in order. And as you saw in the first image, there's a 7-hour rest before 4 p.m. in the afternoon, which means that our 24-hour period starts at 4 p.m. in Wingfield, Wingfield being a suburb of Adelaide. So the 24-hour period goes from 4 p.m. on the first day until 4 p.m. on the second day, and I've outlined this here in red so we can see the period that we're working with. We know that we have a 7-hour rest inside of our 24-hour period because if we count 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., we've got our 7 hours rest. I've highlighted this here in green. Now, the first thing that rang alarm bells about these two pages is the number of corrections. You can see here I've surrounded these 3 corrections in orange. Also, I can see that we've run right to the limit and we've only just finished our 7-hour rest within the 24-hour period. And we're also at a tad over 11 hours of work. There's our work in blue, 11 and a quarter hours. So if we add all of these areas, there's another hour of what was recorded as work, which was then crossed out. If we add that extra hour, we can see that we would be over the 12 hours of work in this 24-hour period. Now, this driver's on standard, so keep that in mind. It's a 12-hour book, not 14 BFM. And because we'd run past 9 p.m. until 9:30 with the third correction there, that would mean that we wouldn't be able to finish our 7-hour rest inside of the 24-hour period. So we would have had more than 12 hours work and we wouldn't have had our 7-hour rest. Now, these corrections, we don't know whether or not these corrections were made to reduce the amount of work in the work diary and the truck and the driver actually did work these hours. Or maybe the driver didn't work these hours and it was purely just error. I can check that via GPS, but we're not going to do that just yet. We're going to use this as a teaching aid for the driver, and then at the next review and the next review, then we'll start using GPS. So we're going to give this driver some opportunity to learn, to correct their mistakes in future, and then improve. Now, what we're going to do is focus in on this area here highlighted in blue. This is the beginning of the second day. And remember here that my immediate thought when I looked at this 24-hour period is there's lots of corrections and we're right on the limit of our 7-hour rest and the timings where we can work and rest. So we're right on the limit and there's lots of corrections. That screams to me as an auditor that there's potential falsification. going over this period, I could go to GPS, I could do a great big review, but I don't really need to because I can find some evidence of falsification or what appears to be falsification just in this blue circle. So we're going to tip this sideways and make it a little bit easier to read. So here we've tipped it sideways and we're just going to look at the first work period of the day. So between 12:15 a.m. to 1 a.m. We can see here that the driver has initially recorded that they've worked for 1 hour, but then crossed out 15 minutes at 1 to 1:15 a.m. and they've changed it to 45 minutes work. If we look at the odometer readings, we can see that the odometer reading at 1 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. ends in 536, and the odometer reading at 12:15 in the morning ends in 458. Straight off, I can see that that's going to be very close to 75 kilometres. So 536 minus 458 is actually 78 kilometres. Now, the problem here is that if your truck does exactly 100 kilometres an hour for the entire hour that it works, then that means you can do 100 kilometres in 60 minutes, or in every 15-minute interval, you can do 25 kilometres. So in 3/4 of an hour, if your truck does 100 kilometres an hour, exactly 100 kilometres an hour, because it's not allowed to go faster than 100k, then the maximum speed you can do is 75 kilometres in that 45-minute period. Now, the reality of average speed is that the truck is not going to be able to average 100 kilometres an hour, even though 100 kilometres an hour is a legal speed limit. If we looked at our speed on a map, it would look something like this. It's going to look something like a bell curve with a large central plateau. So we're going to start from a dead stop and you're going to ramp this truck up to speed and you're going to get up to about your 100 kilometres an hour and you're going to sit there for as long as possible. Maybe you're going to go up and down for some hills, but we want to sit up there flat. And then when you get to the very end of your work, you're going to have to slow down. Another example of a bell curve with that peak and trough in the top is up here, and it's just showing speeding up, sitting around 100 kilometers an hour, and then slowing down to rest. Now, if we can agree on that, the second thing we need to agree on is that work time is always rounded up. This is from the NHVR website about counting time. Work time is always rounded up. So that means if we do 46 minutes, then 46 minutes counts as 1 hour in our work diary. Now, I know that's contentious. I'm not here to argue about it. I'm just here to teach you the law. If you work 46 minutes, then it needs to be recorded as 1 hour work in your diary. Right, let's finish up by returning back to our example. In this example, the driver has done 78 kilometres in 3/4 of an hour. Now, we know that this is not possible because we can't do more than 75 kilometres in 3/4 of an hour, even if our truck instantly could go 100 kilometres an hour without ever having to slow down or speed up, just instantly 100 kilometres an hour down the highway. And no truck has got that torque. So with this driver doing 78k in 45 minutes, we know that either they're speeding or the other alternative is that they haven't shown all of their work. It is more likely that the driver took closer to 50 minutes to an hour to do that 78 kilometres. And that's why an hour of work was originally shown. And then that 15 minutes was scrubbed out and changed to rest. So what do we do when we find this in our logbooks? we deal with it. This example has been raised as a non-conformance internally with the company where the driver works. The driver will be spoken to, provided training, and will monitor his logbooks going forward to make sure that this doesn't recur. The other final thing that we can do in this company is add the driver to BFM because the company's already got BFM. This will provide the driver up to 14 hours in his logbook in a 24-hour period, which will allow him, if it is a pressure, to not have to cross out all of the work that he's done. Final sales pitch, bigriggcompliance.com or bigriggcompliance.com.au, Mitcham Turner on LinkedIn or Big Rig Compliance on Facebook. Look me up. If you guys need work diary reviewing, incident reporting, advice on how to look up or look at logbooks, training internally, or even BFM set up in your company so your drivers have a bit more hours and flexibility, hit me up. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. See you in the next video. Please like and follow. I know that these videos are really popular on logbooks, and I hope to be doing a lot more of them in the future. Thank you. Have a good one.